Okay, this is Master Use, and this is how to build your editing room number 2. I had already done one video, and it's on YouTube, and Shannon Smith got a hold of me and asked me if I would do a number 2 and asked me some questions. So I'm going to answer the questions, and hopefully you'll learn from it and you'll enjoy the video, and it'll help complement how to build the editing room number 1. So anyway, thanks to Shannon Smith for contacting me and asking me some questions and asking for another video. And I've done that video, and I hope you enjoy it. And so the interesting thing is I'm a mess right now because we're in here working on the editing room. Just a few months ago, we were flooded, and I am having to repair a lot of damage that happened to the editing room. Okay, we got this room alone is 600 square feet, and I'm not in a flood zone. We were in that Imelda tropical storm. I'm down here close to Houston, and it flooded everything. It came into my editing room. I lost thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and everything had been done right. We were not supposed to flood. We were supposed to be totally out of the flood zone, but the storm was that bad. It flooded, and I lost thousands of dollars in equipment. Now, the important thing to note, the reason I'm bringing that up is I am in here finishing repairing things. We already had the computers off the floor, because you never have a computer on the floor in your editing room. Don't do that. And yes, I know some of the computers are real big. You're worried about them falling over. Right now, we're having to get some shelves built. I got mine set up over there, and you'll see it in a second. We're having to get the shelves built to properly hold them, but they need to be up off the floor. Now, mine were off the floor probably 8 inches. Shouldn't have been a problem, especially in a no flood zone. Well, it didn't go that way, and I flooded, and the computers, well, I had to replace them. Now, here's something I want to share with you. It's very, very important. I didn't lose the computers directly to the water. I did have to replace the power supply, which is 500 watt. It was expensive. I actually lost the computers due to the fact that the water hit the internet and shorted the internet out and shorted the board on the computer, and basically, luckily we had backups. We had backups on the hard drives, but it just ruined those computers. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands. You can have 5,000 into an editing computer real quick. And I've got one over there right now that would probably get close to that. And so I lost all the computers. I lost most of the electronic equipment. I lost all the transformers and power supplies that were set up. It shorted them all. I mean, I took a whopping loss. And the reason I'm mentioning that is so that you will think, here we were, we should not have flooded. We're not supposed to have flooded. We're not even in flood zone, and it happened. And so I would suggest to you, and I already had a lot of this fixed up. I was prepared for a lot of things. But keep your computers high, even if you have to buy a special shelf. Keep your voltage supplies high, okay, above the wall plug, so that you can take a foot or 2 foot of water without getting into them voltage power supplies. It would just destroy them. It burned them all up. So keep all your equipment way off the floor. Higher than I originally had. 6 inches should have been enough in the area I'm in, but it wasn't. And especially keep the power supplies up on the wall, not on the floor. I really suggest that. I paid a heavy price for that. I had emergency devices on there. I had the surge protectors. I had everything. They don't work a lot of times. So the best thing you can do is keep your internet device off the floor, up on the wall, on a stand. Keep your computers up. Keep all your power supplies up, well off the floor, mount them to the wall or something like I'm doing this time to help prevent those problems. We sustained massive damage. I had to pull out the walls. I had to pull out insulation. It took me months. It took a month to dry it out. It was so bad. So I went back and I'm correcting a few things. The problem with the internet is if you're doing wireless, you don't have to worry about getting a short. Wireless to the computer. But I was mainlined from the internet to the computers because we have a very, very slow service here. And mainlining them, hooking them straight to the computer by wire, gave me the best speed when I needed to upload or download. And that's why it happened. It's actually the best way to hook up a computer, except when something like that happens. So we had to move our internet phone box up higher on the wall. We had to move the internet device higher on the wall. We had to move all the connectors and power supplies up, and I'm still working on that. It's been a big job. It's taken me several months, and we're getting there. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. Let's get into the video about how to put together your own studio. You don't have to have a 600 square foot studio. You can have a 100 square foot studio. I have this big. My editing room's this big because I teach people in here sometimes. We shoot video in here sometimes, and I needed extra room. But a lot of people who are just want to shoot a little film or YouTube film, you can have a little 100 square feet and have a great editing room. Now, if you have the money, I really suggest shooting in 4K and shooting with 4K monitors. And I know, yes, they're expensive. If you don't have, you're fine to go with a 1080p monitor and shoot in 1080p. 4K is much more difficult to shoot in. Oh, it's way more difficult to handle the cameras. And so you may want to go 1080p. But you're going to need I like to keep a separate computer myself and only use that computer to go online normally. I do not want to risk my editing computer. I don't want somebody to get in there and sabotage it or get a bug on it. So I have two separate computers, one to do my internet and my business and send files to people. The other that I primarily do 99% of all the actual editing with, because I use DaVinci Resolve, and DaVinci Resolve is fantastic, except it takes a more expensive computer and a more expensive video card. It really does. You're talking about $600 or $700 video card to really, if you really want to handle 4K or bigger projects with a lot of effects, you're going to need it. That's the only downside of DaVinci Resolve. It takes a much more expensive setup. If you don't need 4K, you don't have to have that expensive of a setup. It'd be cheaper. It'd probably be half the cost of what's setting up a 4K computer system in DaVinci Resolve. Use a different software and then use 1080p, and you'll get a cheaper computer, and you still put out some great stuff, okay? It was just my decision to go to 4K is the reason I did it, and I'm glad I did. It's like I said, it's much more difficult to use the cameras in 4K, way more difficult, and it's harder to find a cameraman knows what the hell he's doing, trust me. But it has worked well for me. So let's get on, and I'll show you how we've set up the walls and how we did the foam and the trim and the lights and how we're reassembling everything from the flood. And boy, it was a mess. I'll never want to go through that again. But anyway, let's get on with it. And quickly, you'll see we talked about the floor, we talked about the walls, the foam. And if you're going to use the walls, I like the sheetrock. If you don't mind, if you're going to be permanent, use 5/8 sheetrock. Or use 2 half-inch sheetrocks and lay them over each other. It will kill a lot of sound, especially if you can't afford, let's say you can't rebuild a room and you can't put the proper insulation in the wall, then double up your sheetrock. It really helps. The sheetrock kills a lot of sound. If you are building your own, then it doesn't hurt still to put the rock wall in the wall and then put the sheetrock on top, the 5/8 sheetrock on top, or maybe a 5/8 and a half or 2 halves, because it really, really helps kill the sound. And then again, the windows are double pane windows. That's very important. So the biggest sound leakage problem I have in this sound room, this editing room, is through the air conditioner because it's a window unit. Now that's the downside, but I didn't want to put in an expensive central air unit okay, which would have been a little better, but it could have cost me $4,000 more. So that's where your sound leakage will come from, and you can stop that by putting, if it's a sunny day, put a mat on the outside, help kill sound that's coming into the chassis of the air conditioner. Otherwise, the double pane windows stop a lot of sound. And now you have a great little editing room. Okay, watch this. I'll show it to you real quickly, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, I'm showing you the corner, and behind the 4K TV is rows of foam. You're going to notice the foam is bi-directional. In so many words, every other piece, every other square, they're 1 foot squares, they're running opposite directions. This is very, very effective. It's also up near the ceiling. Okay, you'll notice an extra wide trim. The wide trim helps me. It gives a little bit of reflection. And I put the foam up close to it because you're going to get a lot of sound bouncing in corners. And even with all this in here, we still have a little echo in the room. But we've got to have it as quiet as possible, especially if we're shooting film in here, or if we are trying to listen to proms, or let's say we're trying to edit in an audio line onto the film. We have to have it real quiet in here. So we have bi-directional there. To the right of it, you're going to notice triangular shaped foam. So we got bi-directional, which effectively has 2 primary faces, and the triangular, which has 4 primary faces. So we get it breaks up a lot of sound waves that way. Okay. Now, at the top, over all the awards, you're going to see another row of foam. That is another way, and again, it's bi-directional. Now, having all the awards in here, it's nice, it's good if you have people in here and you need to show them that you have experience. It can help in a way because the frames will break up or scatter some of the sound waves. But you also have to remember the pane, the glass on there, will reflect some of the sound waves. So I've got each frame is off the wall just a little bit. And then, of course, like I said, I have the foam up along the ceiling there, running down on both sides of the building, bi-directional. Kills a ton of echo, because we had at one time a really, really bad echo in here. We still have a little, we're still working on it right now because of the flood that we were in. So look at the extra wide corner trim for the ceiling to wall. The fact that we have various types of foam, this bi-directional 2 to 4 planes to help scatter and absorb the sound. And here on the end wall, we have these on 4 walls actually. We have a 4x4 square. Now, I made this. I created a 4x4 frame, got some cloth. Inside of there, I put rock wool and insulation. I believe I put the 3-inch thick insulation in there and compressed it down and stretched the cloth over it, and the rock wool really helps with bass sounds. Okay, the foam doesn't help with bass sounds real well, but the rock wool and these 4x4s, it was cheap to do. Basically, the cost of a couple of sheets of rock wool, or a couple pieces, and the cloth, because I made this frame just out of, I believe, 2x2 is what I made it. And I just stapled it together, and then I put the rock wool in there and I stretched the cloth over it. It looks very, very nice, and it absorbs a lot of bass. Now, up here on the ceiling, you're going to notice more triangular foam. I vary across the ceiling in 2 or 3 spots, triangular to the ridge type to the triangular type. So I've got several, again, bi-directional structure up there that helps kill a lot of sound wave. Now, when we're talking about that, you're going to notice, I'm not going to point directly at it, you see the glow of the light right there. I use 6500K fluorescent lights in here. Now, this has 6 4-bulb lights in here, and it's a little bit shy. but I've got it on two different switches so that if I want to keep my costs down, I cut off 4 of the lights and I run 2 of the lights just to edit with. If I'm filming, I need all 4 of the lights. And I could use a little bit more light in here, even though there's 6500K, it really helps. It's still a big room. So we've got the lights. Across the ceiling and balanced. Now you'll notice down there past the chair and the LED light, we have LED light there to help with things, and we have 2 windows. Now I can open the shades on the window and it adds quite a bit of light. We have windows only in one direction. Those are double pane windows to help kill sound. But the reason I only have them in one wall is to help me control the way the light is coming into the room. If you got windows all over, sometimes it gives you a film problem with the light comes from different directions. So this way I can control my light, and you'll see I have a little window air conditioning in there. Get a very, very quiet window unit if you need to cool your room. Sometimes I still had to cut it off, but because the room is insulated heavily, the whole room is insulated heavily with rock wool, it's easy to maintain a reasonable temperature in here. So I can get it cooled down. I might be able to work 2 or 3 hours without even having to turn the air conditioning on. In the winter, I don't hardly have to even use heat in here because of the way it was designed. And we're still putting everything back together because of the flood that we were in. But you'll see over there in the corner, thing to the right, the hairy thing to the right, is actually my Bigfoot suit for a new movie that we're working on. We're working on it. You'll see, you might see the sewing machine over there, but we're working on our own costume. But you'll see a rack of equipment. So we're organizing the equipment again over there. It doesn't hurt anything because the shelves and the equipment help break up sound waves. It also keeps my equipment in one spot so I can get it organized, I can find what I need. And it's easy to buy more equipment than you need. You really just keep down to the basics. Figure out what you need for the basics: a stand, your camera, a good mic, and keep down to the basics. Now I have also to make it easy to take equipment in and out of here when I'm having to work somewhere else. The Stanley tool chest has worked really, really good. And beside that, you'll see a bag, a camera bag. It's a large size, it's a big one. It's the only thing that works for me. It's padded, it's really, really great. I don't use a small bag, but the Stanley tool chest has worked great for transporting equipment, and it was actually way cheaper than that bag to the left. I think the bag was $100-something, and the Stanley tool chest was about $45, and so it worked out real well. And again, here on the other side of the room, we have the foam across, we have the wide trim, we have the awards and stuff. Got some flutes over there. That's just for me messing around, I guess you'd say. And then we have, I'm working on a project right now. We have a copier that I can send information to people. We have computers down here. We have a 1080 screen, a 4K screen, a very large 4K screen, and our super editing computer right there. Now that's all a mess right now because I'm actually working on the new movie, and so I've got the paperwork over there to help line up the shots for the new movie, which is, maybe I'll tell you, I believe we're going to be calling the new movie The Kimetsu Beast. It follows along our documentary that we put out, 1 hour documentary called the Kiamichi Beast Expedition. And so main thing is about building the editing room. And she especially said, well, what about the floors? Well, as you can see, the floor there is a hard floor. It's the type of vinyl tile. Now, in commercial studios, they quite often have a subfloor. So many words, they'll have a fake floor above the concrete. In that fake floor, there is more sound dampening material. You can use rock wool. So they actually build up a fake floor, maybe 4 inches, fill it full of rock wool, and then put the tile all over it. That helps with sound. Now, I haven't done that. It's very, very expensive. I have just gone tile. But because I have prepared my walls and where the wall and the ceiling meet and the corners so well, it helps stop a lot of the reflection off the hard floor. Now, you can throw a rug on the floor, and that can actually help dampen sound. I have done it sometimes, put 2 or 3 across there to help dampen sound, help kill the vibration. But hopefully you'll learn from it and you'll enjoy the video, and it'll help complement how to build the editing room #1. So anyway, thanks to Shannon Smith for contacting me and asking me some questions and asking for another video. And I've done that video, and I hope you enjoy it. Bye-bye.